The topic for today is going to be all about get. Pretty simple. We'll be talking about the verb get. What we're going to talk about first is something that is very important to learning really anything, but specifically learning languages. And that is something called spaced repetition, or really just reviewing, or something we call the forgetting curve. So according to statistics and scientific studies, you forget almost 80 to 90% of what you learn just by passively watching or even taking notes after about a week if you don't review it. So I used our class today as an example. So for example, if you only watch today's stream and you don't participate, you don't take notes, you don't try to answer the questions, you'll probably remember about 15% of what we went over. But if you watch today's stream and then you review a little bit of what we did tomorrow, you'll probably remember about 40%, maybe a month from now. And if you review it maybe tomorrow and then again in a week or a couple of days, you'll remember about 60%. I would say most of the things I teach my students, I'm not teaching them for the first time, but they don't review enough, and so they forget and need to learn again and again. My recommendation is always learn something, and if you just take 5 to 10 minutes to review it, try to think about how I could use it, maybe create a sentence, you're going to improve your retention and your ability to use these words by, like here it says 50, 60%. So it's very important to review after learning. The first thing we'll talk about is some basic strategy about how you should be studying English as a business professional. You don't have a lot of time. You probably have work, you have a family perhaps, but you don't really have 2-3 hours a day to study English. And that's okay. The best thing to do is combine different methods. If you look on YouTube or anywhere else for advice about learning a language today, you'll probably see people say that you need to watch a lot of videos, watch TV, read articles, and this is all true. You definitely need to be doing lots of input, but this is only half of what you should be doing. It's kind of like when you are trying to get in shape. There's one side, which is eating healthy and sleeping properly. And there's the other side, which is actually going to the gym, lifting weights, exercising. And it's kind of the same when it comes to learning a language. If you only do input and you're only listening and just listening as much as you can, it's good practice, but you're never exercising this muscle of trying to find the meaning of a word, put it in a sentence, and use it. So it's like if you want to get stronger in the gym, but you only focus on nutrition or proper health. You need to focus on the nutrition, but you also need to focus on challenging yourself, pushing yourself, trying to use the muscle. And in learning English, it's exactly the same. When you're thinking about your English learning, do a lot of input, but also think, okay, how can I produce this language? Either talking with a friend, getting a teacher, even writing sentences. So today we're going to do a lot of practice we're going to do a lot of strategies with different output methods. And the idea is you really want to practice like seeing the word and then going in your brain, trying to get the word out. And that's the idea. You need to practice retrieval. So see the word, get the word, use the word. That's what you need to practice if you want to be better, if you want to improve your English. Today, we're going to talk about get. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, it is the get is la palabra multiusos. It can be used for, I don't know. I think if someone told me that get had 100 uses, I would agree. I don't know exactly how many uses it has, but it has quite a few, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But really, we're only going to be talking about a few uses. When you're learning new things, it's much better, especially as an advanced learner, to learn a few things at a higher level than to learn many things at a low level. When you learn many things at a low level, this is a situation where you're in a meeting and you want to say something and you think you have a word and you know, okay, I think I have this word, but you can't get it. Or you hear someone say something and you recognize it, but you don't know what it means, and you get caught kind of confused and even more frustrated because you know, I learned that word. At some point I knew it, but today I have no clue what it means, and it can be quite frustrating. So it's better to learn a few things at a time, review them, and just get better little by little. It's great to study 50 words, 100 words, and have big goals, but I would recommend if you learn a few words, you study them, you review them, and then you use them in a meeting. It's going to be so much better for your confidence and your progress than just learning a couple words here and there. We're going to be talking today mostly about 5 meanings of get, and then we'll be discussing a couple big uses of get. A couple phrases with get, let's say. The first meaning of get we're going to discuss today is to obtain something, como obtener, or receive something, como recibir. This is probably the most common use of get, or maybe not the most common, but it's known. Most students, when they think get, they think obtain or receive. So, for example, I got an email. I got a raise, como un aumento de salario. I got a job. I got feedback. So your boss tells you good or bad, this is feedback. You can get approval. I got an idea. Anytime you go and obtain something, like going to the store to get milk, or someone kind of gives you something, you'd say, oh, I got something. You're getting something, you use get. And of course, in Spanish, es como recibir, obtener, o conseguir. The next use of get that is quite common is to arrive somewhere. When you go to a place with your friends, if you go to a bar or restaurant with your friends, when you leave, it's common your friends will text you and say, hey, tell me when you get home. So in Spanish, it's like, avísame cuando llegues. Y cuando llegues a la casa, dices, llegué. Pero en inglés, decimos, I just got home. The second meaning of get is always arrive, arriving to a place. So for example, maybe your boss will say, when you get to the office, please send me an email. Or when you get back from vacation, please finish your work. When you hear get and a place, typically it means to arrive, more or less. So if you hear get and a place, it probably means to arrive to this place. Okay, now we have gotten to the main things we're going to cover today, which are get used to talk about a change of state or becoming something, and get used as talking about kind of convincing someone or even forcing someone to do something. We'll start with the first one, which is a change of state. For example, it's very common to say, I'm getting tired. Before, you are not tired. Then after, you are tired. But in between, you are getting tired. It's quite common to say this with emotions to describe like being in the process of the emotion. En español, ese es como decir, estoy volviendo, estoy poniendo, or something like that. So for example, me estoy enojando, I'm getting angry. Me estoy cansando, I'm getting tired. Se puso bravo, he got angry. You could hear get promoted, get nervous, get sick, get used to. So get used to is like acostumbrarse. So for example, I just moved to a new place. I'm getting used to the weather. So me acostumbro a la clima. Getting better. So this is a very important one. Mejorarse. Getting worse. Empeorarse. No sé si así se dice en español, qué pena. But to get better is the process of a little bit better every day. So for example, my English is getting better because I practice daily, or getting worse. For example, the inflation problem in the world is getting worse because of some reason. So that is get to talk about something changing. If you hear get and an emotion, or get and something, maybe it means there's a change. It's kind of like become or convert to. Okay. Now, the next one is make or persuade. We use this one to talk about when we kind of convince someone to do something. So we need someone to help us with a task. So we say, hey, get John to do that. Can you get the client to sign the contract? So it means, can you kind of convince the client to sign the contract, or help the client sign the contract? But it just means it's kind of like force or make, but it's not aggressive. It just means, hey, can you get John to call me back about the new deal? This is the idea with these phrases and words about get. The first thing we'll talk about is get as become or change. So when we talk about get as in changing, we can use it with an adjective or kind of with a past participle. So an adjective is easy. This is a word for describing something. And then we can use it as a past participle, as in get married, get engaged, get promoted, or get used to. One note about get used to, this is like to get comfortable with or acostumbrarse. This is very common. You can tell someone, I'm getting used to the new working routine, or I'm getting used to our weird boss. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at some clips of movies and TV shows where they use these things in context. And what I want you to do is to listen and try to write down what they're saying. And I'll write it down in a moment, but we'll listen a couple times, try to understand what they're saying, and then figure out what it means. We'll start with the first clip, get used as become.
Now go home and get better.
Is that one more time?
Now go home and get better.
Here he says, now go home and get better. This is a great example because in this case, get better kind of has two meanings. We can use get better to mean recovering from a sickness. Oh, I'm sick, I need to get better. So in this case, it's como recuperarse. But you can also use get better to talk about improving a skill. For example, my Spanish is getting better because I practice every day. Or I'm getting better at my job. Let's see it again.
Now go home and get better.
He says, go home and get better. In this situation, which meaning do you think it is? Improving something or recovering from an illness?
Now go home and get better.
So in this case, it's most likely recovering from an illness. So they look like they're at work. So he's saying, hey, you're sick, go home and get better. We don't want to get sick also. We'll see what's next.
I get bored easily, so I'm always up for a challenge.
All right, we'll watch that one more time.
I get bored easily, so I'm always up for a challenge.
All right, so what did she say in the clip? So she says, I get bored easily, so I'm always up for a challenge. Let me type this here. I get bored easily, so I'm always up for a challenge. All right, so here she's saying she gets bored. She becomes bored easily. So if she's sitting at home or maybe doing something other people would find exciting, she gets bored. She becomes bored. Se aburra muy fácil. All right, so now we'll move on to the next one. We'll go here to our next clip.
That may be a problem for some guys, but I get better over time. That may be a problem for some guys, but I get better over time.
What did he say here? Which type of get was used? He says that may be a problem for some guys, but I get better over time. But I get better over time. In this situation, what do you think is the meaning? Do you think the meaning is recover from a sickness or improve a skill? Yes, it is improve a skill. So he's saying, I get better over time. Maybe some people have a problem, but not me. I get better over time. All right, so we have one more example here, and then we're going to move on to some practice so you guys can see how you can actually practice and use these words in a sentence.
Do you think that if Leonard and I keep dating, he'll eventually get bored with me? Do you think that if Leonard and I keep dating, he'll eventually get bored with me? Do you think that if Leonard and I keep dating, he'll eventually get bored with me?
Do you think that if Leonard and I keep dating, we'll say he will, to be simpler, he will eventually get bored with me? In this case, what does this mean? She's saying, will he get bored with me? In a romantic relationship, two people are together for a long time, and sometimes people get bored with each other. It happens, unfortunately, and she's nervous that her boyfriend will get bored with her, meaning, oh, maybe he'll want to find a different woman or something like this. And so she's nervous about this situation. However, if you know the context of this show, the next scene, this guy is Leonard's friend, and he's going to laugh a lot, I believe, because Leonard is not the most charming guy with women, and he's very excited to have this girl in the show as his girlfriend, and so I think he's going to laugh and say, no, that will never happen. But anyway, that's what she means, to get bored with me, become bored. We'll go ahead and move on. We're going to look at a few different types of questions, but really there are so many different types of questions and ways that you can actually study new words that you learn. For example, what we're going to look at here today is just some exercises that I generated using the AI. And these exercises are great because when you first learn a new word, it's sometimes hard to take a word that you barely know and try to make a new sentence. It's better to start with something kind of simple and easy, and then do something that's a little bit harder, then a little bit harder, and just increase step by step the difficulty until you feel comfortable using the word in a sentence. That's the idea with these exercises. The idea is to get progressively harder, and you really want to start with something very simple. If you rarely practice English, or you haven't learned a new word in a while, it's kind of like starting at the gym. So you don't want to start with something intense, like here's a word, make a sentence. It's a lot. So it's better to start with something simple, then continue from there. We're going to start with seeing the word in context, thinking about and telling me which one do you think sounds more natural. First one we have here. I'll read them out loud and you guys can tell me which one sounds better. I'm getting tired of these long meetings. I'm becoming tired of these long meetings. The team will become more confident with practice. The team will get more confident with practice. After the promotion, he got really overwhelmed. After the promotion, he became really overwhelmed. What about the first one? Any ideas? You can put it in the chat what you think, if it's A or B for number one. Getting sounds better in the situation. Becoming here sounds a bit formal, like I'm becoming tired of these meetings. It sounds like something from a novel. But getting tired of these long meetings, that sounds pretty good. Number two, which one sounds better? To be honest, they both sound pretty good. You could say become more confident. I would say get. Get is just simpler. It's very common in American English. So I would go with get. Same thing with number three. He got really overwhelmed. You see how we start? What sounds better? What sounds more natural? Now I want you to read these sentences and tell me if they are correct or incorrect. Very simple. Very simple. Sorry. I'm get hungry. Can we take a break? So what do you guys think? Is this correct or is this incorrect? So this first one is incorrect. And the reason is we have to say, I am getting hungry. We use get just like any other verb. If it is followed by I am, it's going to be ing. So I'm getting hungry. I'm getting better. All right. What about number two? She will got promoted if she keeps performing like this. What do you guys think? She will get promoted. After will, we're going to use this normal phrase, this normal tense. She will get promoted. After the merger, everyone got used to the new system eventually. All right, so what do you guys think about this one? Okay, so this one is correct. Yeah, this one is definitely correct. Very good job there. All right, so now we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the next practice. You see the practices are getting a bit harder each time. Now, all I want you to do is finish the sentence. You see the sentence is using the target vocabulary, and I want you to think of how can we finish this sentence in a way that makes sense? And what you can do to practice this, of course, you can practice with a friend, with a teacher, but if not, you can just use one of the AI tools. You could ask the AI, hey, I'm practicing these English words. Can you make some half sentences with these words? And I will try to complete the sentence in a logical way, and you can tell me if I'm right or not. In terms of English and especially learning English, the AI is quite accurate. So it will be able to tell you, yes, this sounds good, this sounds bad, and it will give you exact reasons as to why or why something, or why or why not you should say something. We'll start with the first one. After 3 hours of back-to-back calls, I'm getting really, what do you think here? What could finish this sentence? I'm getting really tired, maybe. Or I'm getting really frustrated. So any kind of negative adjective that shows that you're feeling more exhausted could work. So getting really tired. Number 2, the project was a disaster at first, but the team got better. The team got better with practice. First, very bad, and the team is improving, changing, getting better each time. If you don't sleep enough before a big presentation, you're going to think about this. What could you get? What change could happen to you before a big presentation if you don't sleep enough? Going to get tired again, going to get nervous, going to get sick perhaps, any change that could happen because of a lack of sleep. This is the next type of exercise. Finish the sentence. Next one here, and one of the most important, this is where you always want to get to, is being able to answer questions using the word. For example, what is one thing at work you've gotten used to that surprised you? The idea is when you answer a question, of course, you need to understand the question and try to use the word in the answer. If I asked you this question in a normal situation, it's not necessary to always use the word, but for practice, it's a great idea. So for example, one thing I've gotten used to as a teacher that surprised me is sitting for extended periods of time. Or one thing I've gotten used to as a teacher is working odd hours. So teaching students in China at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then teaching students in South America at 9 p.m. I've gotten used to taking naps in the middle of the day or doing different things to make sure I can help all my students. Question number 2, have you ever gotten so frustrated at work it affected your performance? So how could you answer this? You could say, yes, and maybe think of a situation. One time I got so frustrated at work that I wasn't even able to articulate my thoughts to my boss. Or one time I got so frustrated that I couldn't focus on the task I was working on. Last one here, is there a skill you've been trying to get better at for a long time, but it's still a work in progress? What's something you're trying to get better at, but you haven't gotten? Maybe you've gotten a little better, but you haven't gotten a ton better yet. What's a good situation for this? A good example. So for example, I could say, I've been trying to get better at Chinese for a long time, but I'm still struggling quite a bit to be consistent and steady every day. Or I've been trying to get better at building macros in Excel, but I'm still working on it. That's another thing you can use to practice And of course, you can try to think of your own questions. You can look for books and resources online. You can Google discussion questions with the word get. And of course, you can use the AI tools and ask it, hey, I'm practicing get. Please make some discussion questions that force me to use the word in context. These are great ways to practice, and just really, when you're learning words, it's great to read, it's great to listen, it's absolutely important to do, but you need to make yourself produce the language. Start with something simple like recognizing, filling in the blank, then move on to partial sentences, complete sentences. And another exercise you can do is translate from your native language. Some tutors, or a lot of people, really say, oh, you should never translate because then you'll never be fluent. This is ridiculous. It's very helpful to use translation as a way to improve your language skills. Yeah, it's like another connection that you can make in your head. So whenever you learn a new word, I'm sure you've had the experience, some words you learn and you see it 5, 10, 20 times and you forget it every time. And then some words you see, or maybe someone explains it to you in a good way and it clicks and you get it almost instantly. So this usually happens because there's some connection. But this happens all the time in my classes. So if a student asks me what a word means and we're able to relate it to something like real in their life or something in the news, then there's a connection there and the student can grasp it almost instantly, and they usually remember it pretty well. And so whenever you translate to your first language or from your first language, you can create another connection. When you see a new word, it is better to try to figure it out in English first, but creating exercises and realizing the patterns in your native language that translate to different patterns in English, it is an effective, steady tool. So if you like it and you want to do it like this, that's great. I support it. But if you think, oh, I don't ever want to do translation, it's going to confuse me, that's fine as well. As we say in English, to each their own. Cada quien con sus cosas. We'll go over a few translations here. Me estoy poniendo nervioso antes de la presentación. So what get phrase could you use here? You could say, I'm getting nervous before the presentation. So you can see this pattern, like ponerse can be get in some cases. All right, number 2. Al principal fue difícil, pero nos acostumbramos al nuevo software. You could say, at first it was difficult, but we got used to the new software. You can see here, sometimes this reflexive verb can be get in English. Acostumbrarse, casarse, aburrirse, enojarse, things like this. Now the last one. Siento que me estoy quedando atrás en comparación con mis colegas. So where could you put get? How could you make this sentence in English? I feel like I'm getting behind compared with my colleagues. You can see this and see kind of how you can translate it, and you can use the Google Translate or some other tools to help you in this situation. Well, very good. Thank you guys so much. That is all the time we have for today. Unfortunately, in the future, I'd like to do some longer live streams with more questions, more people. We'll be promoting them a lot more, and even giving away some cool things like free classes and other nice things in the future. Thank you guys for coming here, for learning. I hope you guys did learn something. But yeah, if you'd like to take classes, you can send me a message there. I offer a free 25-minute call just to explain how the classes are, evaluate your English, give you some feedback, and see if we're a good fit. So thanks again for watching. I'll hang out if you have any questions, but that'll be it for today, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.